Hi, Orest. Thank you very much for joining us today. Can you please share more about your background and what you're currently building?
Hi, I'm Orest. My background is in computer science. I studied that, and then very briefly after graduating, I founded a tech startup outside of crypto. I would call it in the real world, that is very different from crypto. And did that for a few years. At some point, I decided I wanted to move on, and founded another startup also outside of crypto. And that startup did not work that well, so we quit after 1.5 years. And then, after having been nudged by a friend several times, I finally looked at zero knowledge proofs and multi-party computation becoming a reality rather than just a theoretical concept, and started developing an interest in that in the context of crypto, and ended up joining Scroll, the ZK rollup for Ethereum.
Nice. So, what made you switch from Web 2 to Web 3, other than your friend?
Nothing. No, so this friend was my original technical co-founder at the first startup we founded, and I just had a lot of faith in his evaluation of things, and at the same time I just followed through with the recommendation to look at those topics, and I found the ZK topic very interesting, and I also was reminded because of that I actually have a lot of sympathy for the ecosystem surrounding blockchains. In particular, I had always been a fan of free and open source software, actually more in the past than nowadays. I used not to accept and opt into installing closed source proprietary Wi-Fi drivers on my Linux laptop, and so I wouldn't have Wi-Fi. I would always have to go and find a plug to get a wired internet connection. So I relaxed that requirement, but I kept a lot of sympathy, a lot of liking for the free and open source community, and I find it really special and extraordinary that in crypto and blockchains, being open source does not exclude one from actually having commercial prospects. This is quite interesting, and I think that leads to the fact that it's quite common at conferences and events that people who are building open source projects actually have an opportunity to meet one another. And this is not a niche thing to be doing like open source, but it's actually the norm, and that's the expectancy.
What would you say to the developers who are thinking about switching to Web3, but there is bias about crypto that it's all scam? What would you say to them?
Well, if you ask me, this mostly scam. But the technology is very interesting, and it could have a lot of additional secondary effects that are not scammy at all, such as there's a lot of VC money, obviously, flowing into projects that are doing pretty novel research, ZK being just one of those fields. I think FHE, for instance, fully homomorphic encryption, might be another one of those fields, or other multi-party computation related fields. And this might turn out to be a very interesting field to be involved with, where the fact that there's a lot of scams in crypto is more of an annoyance and a nuisance rather than the defining property of the field. You, a potential Web2 dev getting into Web3, might be involved with. So don't get too scared about it, but brace yourself. This is not just crypto skeptics. There is actually a lot of scam in the nature of this field.
How do you think we can create the brand from scratch, where crypto does not have such a bad reputation in Web2 world, but then to say something that it is actually valuable for the world, and then to attract more conscious leaders to follow that path?
Well, I kind of feel like an old school computer scientist, so I'd say we don't need to recreate the brand. We merely need to look at what was going on with emails. Like 20 years ago, emails were all about scams. Like you would get an invitation from this African prince to help him with the transfer of this $10 billion gift to you. You merely need to transfer him $50 for the Western Union fee. Like that was the reality, and this doesn't discredit email or the internet, for that matter, Web 1 internet as a whole. I think it's just a symptom of a very early ecosystem where things are crazy, where it's kind of a wild west. And I believe and I hope that as time passes by, the ecosystem will mature, that actors within that ecosystem will also get used to it more. But in the end, I think it's all about UX. And if there wasn't Gmail or like other, like, I'm not sure what other systems are, but probably there are. But Gmail just, for me, literally finds 99.9% of spams and identifies them correctly as such. And so the Prince thing with the 10 billion transfer is no longer an annoyance even. And I think something similar can be expected of crypto and the Web3
In what
world.
time frame?
Oh, we are in crypto soon. TM.
Nice. So you've attended a Fuel workshop. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I was pleasantly surprised by several of the elements that I wasn't even aware were a thing. The workshop was on, the topic of the workshop was light contracts, aka Predicates. It's a primitive in Fuel, in the Fuel blockchain, that stands its ground between very lightweight primitives such as externally owned accounts and the more powerful but also heavier smart contracts. And I think it was very interesting for me to be exposed to those additional new points on the spectrum that a blockchain ecosystem may elect to opt in for.
I love it. And the last question. Today, Sam Altman was fired from OpenAI. Oh. And
I missed that.
Yeah. Just curious what your thoughts are on that.
No idea. I don't do Twitter and I don't follow news.
Okay, that's good. But thank you so much for coming here today. I really appreciate you sharing the thoughts.
Of course. Thank you for having me.